Hello, folks, and welcome back. We're here at EGF, ready for some more collegiate Overwatch. Sir Waltham, user Intel. Intel, very excited to be here. As you can see, user, hello, welcome. We're going to be witnessing Ryder versus Tennessee here today. You excited, my friends?
Ooh, I am absolutely excited. Both of these teams coming in, they're going to be trying their best to take that 3-0 victory, hopefully, or maybe a map 5, map 4, whatever they truly decide. But honestly, I feel this one may be a little close. I'm getting some tingly feelings in my, calcium.
I do think that this is going to be a better one from what I understand. We've been having some pretty three Overwatch today, so hopefully we kind of change pace here. Hopefully things get shifted around a little bit. We don't see as much of that being the consistent, but before we get into that, we have to, of course, focus on those first three maps. And user, just remind yourself and people at home, we can see it here on the map select screen. We're going to be starting off on Lijiang, King's Row, and then Tempe of Anubis. I wonder if that's any different from Temple of Anubis there, user. What do you think?
Like Temple of Anubis isn't that good of a map, in my humble opinion. So I'd like to believe that this is the Overwatch 2 version they've leaked out a little bit more early. So, maybe they fixed the spawns. Maybe this is now 3 CP instead of 2 CP. But it's
There you go.
still a scary map to kind of be the third point off, especially if one of these teams is going to be on the back foot.
Yeah, I mean that's typically what we see here. Those control points just being very difficult to kind of overcome and get over, especially if you're already in that downhill position. But what I actually really like about Temple of Anubis is a lot of times we see those different compositions come out. Sometimes we'll see something like a Junkrat come out, which is something you don't really get to see in too many other maps. Maybe Lijiang Tower Command Center, where things are just up close and personal. But other than that, is there anything you expect to see moving forward?
I really think we should expect to see a lot of high coordination compositions because I think the collegiate scene is very much in that mix of both tier 2 to tier 3. I think these players are often kind of mixing around, kind of trying a little bit of flavor. It's like going to an ice cream shop and you get the free sample, you get to pick which one you want, so you have to freely decide. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing. I haven't seen too many teams out here that are very flexible besides from like teams that are very like undefeated or very dominant. So more than anything, I'm hoping to see a bit more flexibility, but I'm expecting to see either a team that's one-tricking the Wrecking Ball composition and they can play it to a very nice degree, or we've got someone else and they're doing the best that they can on Brawl.
Yeah, I mean, overall, you mentioned it right there. Brawl, I'm just going to get it out of the way. I expect it to be at least a predominant for one map, considering we're going to be going to King's Row on second. And, when you talk King's Row, you always have to talk that Reinhardt. Usually, or previously, it used to be the Reinhardt Zarya. Now I think we're seeing a little bit of movement, whether it's the Zarya, whether it's the Diva, whether it's whatever else. But Reinhardt still very essential on that first point. We are going to be getting into first point here, user. Or first map here soon. Any final thoughts?
King's Row, very much a specific Brawl map. I think that everyone can basically agree it's the one you want to run if your team is very coordinated, and the fact that your own tanks can be really good at kind of putting down that pressure, focusing people out. It's very much a main tank fight in those big clusters of kind of the mid-brawl way. So I think more than anything when it comes to King's Row, if your team is running something like a Wrecking Ball, which is possible, I've seen teams do it, it's almost an interesting and different style that teams kind of work on. And I think that puts a lot more emphasis on how important that main tank role is that sometimes, we don't appreciate a little bit.
As a main tank player, I'll always say that we are unappreciated, but that might be a little bit of bias there. But now, before we get too excited about King's Row, we have to focus on Lijiang Tower. It looks like, if my memory serves, we're going to be seeing Gardens. Any compositional hints you might expect here, user?
Oh, well, we're already looking at some form of kind of double bubble in a smaller sense, and then just a pure dive, which is very understandable. Very fast compositions, looking to just quickly isolate and focus people down. However, University of Tennessee, I'm feeling like Basher is going to have a lot of fun on Sombra.
We'll certainly see. Basher certainly no slouch on that DPS role, but these two teams looking to get fighting right ahead. Rider University playing a little bit more reserved here for the time being. Noodles perhaps looking for a setup like trying to isolate somebody. That bridge can be so precarious against an enemy Lucio, especially when you have to try to cross this dangerous area. But now Tennessee so far maintaining advantage, especially with Ranger dropping. Rider having to take a back step for just a second, and it's given up point possession for Tennessee. Things are starting off well for him.
Yeah, it's a really good start, just getting that boop, an initial pick. So as this fight starts to pick up, it's going to be harder because the more they're on this bridge, the bigger threat of Noodle shutting them down.
We can already see Dogefighter just keeping eyes out for that Genji. Soggy going for the Soggy Blade as we've seen before. So Twitchy going to be looking to combo with that. Some ultimates that we can expect to synergize in the near future, but so far not a lot of kills coming through.
Yeah, it very much is a slow start for Rider University. They seem kind of uncomfortable to just take this somewhat mirror matchup, even forcing themselves to kind of switch over to a composition to where they can just freely walk in. I'm pretty sure it's just because Basher is such a threat on that Sombra that you don't know who to dive truly. So as this fight kicks in, they got to be paying more attention.
Keep eyes out here, though, folks. University of Tennessee has DeHubs, who's just going to walk in with that Coalescence, giving them that little bit of extra punch, and just like that, it's a rapid team kill.
What an excellent way to just take that aggression. Ranger's team had not fully been together, so the fact that Ranger was just moving up a little bit too forward, a little bit too ahead, meant that once that Coalescence kind of pumped in, there was just nothing you can do. Doge is just making sure you're going to be hitting with that damage. Now, coming up, Basher's going to be looking for this hack, and this could be a further issue.
And Basher going for the hack, but forces that shield rotation coming in from Ranger. And DeHub's just in the backline trying to lay down any pellets they can. Dogefighter just battering that Reinhardt, the big Death Blossom coming in. Lots of ultimates committed from Tennessee, but they're going to hold the point.
A little rude, I'll definitely say that of the least. They had a really nice boot, but still had to use that Blossom because they wanted to make sure they won that. But Rider University are very much struggling to keep up against this momentum. University of Tennessee are doing an amazing job of just pushing forward. Luckily, though, they catch out the Hubs before the Reaper was able to kind of poke them out.
Oh, but DeHub's able to get away in the nick of time, and just like that, able to get in close where Reaper feels most comfortable, but doesn't feel comfortable on his back as gets shattered down. Rider University now looking to get some progress on the board, and not a moment too soon. Tennessee at 99.
That's what I am talking about. When you're just playing Brawl, there is nothing more convincing than just walking into the enemy team and see them kind of confused because they were hoping on something else, especially since they seem to just kind of rely on the Hubs to kind of distract them. They're looking to break their angles, and it's going to be harder for them to be able to push in until Basher builds up that EMP. It's very much their win condition, but they still want to just push it with the sound barrier.
Sound barrier goes in, but they still lose one. It's going to be the EMP going out. Rider University now having both their tanks stunned, locked out of those abilities. It's not going to matter, though. Tennessee hemorrhaging players. Lucky Dog just trying to get away. Burned down, able to make a grab to the health pack, though, using that Matrix for the last moment of getting away.
Yeah, that was a very scary situation because that EMP could have been massive or could have been held on, but it just seemed that Basher wanted an opportunity to kind of make a hero play and save it back. The fact that they got Ranger absolutely meant they could have retaken the fight, but they weren't feeling as confident. So with this Coalescence, this is where they want to take it.
Coalescence is exactly how they're going to initiate things, and Rider University going to try to fire back with the sound barrier. Earthshatter goes out, gets a couple down, but the follow-up's not quite there. That Winston eventually does take a fall, but Tennessee not deciding to be out of this fight just yet. Soggy getting taken down, Immortality Field forced out. It's going to be the self-destruct, getting 3 off the back end. Lucky Dog, I think, broke the Reinhardt shield at the very last moment, and just like that, Tennessee able to come back, now going to be going into overtime.
Target focus is something every team needs to be paying attention to, and while this Death Blossom may just be LOSing them, still more than enough to be able to walk them off. Unfortunately, that team kill was very vital to shut them down, and I guess they were just relying on that shield. Unfortunately, it did break just like a kind of second or two before that bomb truly exploded, and that cost them so much.
Yeah, I mean, Lucky Dog absolutely paying dividends for the team of Tennessee right there. If that 3 kill on the bomb doesn't happen, I mean, that fight goes an entirely different way, you have to think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Their composition was very good, at least when just kind of overstaying your welcome, investing ultimates early and pushing in, but the problem just came is that they weren't able to fully focus a target. University of Tennessee were using their composition to split them up, make their attention, and that's where comms become much of an issue, especially with that Diva Bomb kind of splitting your focus of where you want to rotate. It becomes an issue. So now moving out, they want to be able to play together. They are seeing that TP on the side of University, so Riders are, oh no, struggling.
And Ranger just immediately getting sectioned off by that ice wall. To tale as old as time, as long as we've been talking about Night Tower, or Night Market rather. Everybody getting knocked off. Noodles still playing that Enforcer Lucio as much as possible, but Rider University still not backing up like they probably should be, or at least throwing themselves off the map.
You know, sometimes I think you should always just jump before you jump off the map. Never let them get that boop kill. We already see them building a massive amount of ults. Doge is about to be building that shatter, and they're even almost about to find Ranger, and it's just the fact that their composition is really good in a kill box scenario. And this is what they're trying to set up. They don't even want to play on point. They want to try and early fight this as much as possible. With this window, it could be of good favor.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. The Earth Shatter goes in. Doge Fighter takes down Ranger, but doesn't really find much else with the Earth Shatter. Now it's going to be Rider University trying to lean in, prize some sort of advantage. Immortality Field is down, but Tennessee is being given plenty of time to just recover, let themselves recoup, and Ranger steps right in front of that amplification matrix and pays dearly for it. Now Rider University might certainly start to struggle to hold back this damage, although Tennessee showing good restraint here, not letting themselves get too far ahead. And now, as we see, Sinsvin's getting taken down. Ryder just cannot put one foot in front of the other.
Well, it's just becoming more of an issue on the fact that they're not being able to shut down Basher. There is so much room that Symmetra is able to give this team, and the fact that they just deal so much damage, Ranger really has nothing that they can do as a hero, as a main tank, to be able to shut that down. You're working with that Zarya, so unless you're playing hyper-aggressive, you're using that sound barrier to your advantage and never using it defensively, well, then you're going to have a really struggling time to kind of break through. They're always going to be watching you and looking to take those rotations. You just have to take the early fight.
Sinsvin's gonna have Grav up soon. The teleporter tries to come out, can't quite connect though, and Sinsvin's looking like they're gonna get punished for it immediately. Dahubs and Bash are gonna be using both their DPS ultimates, and then Rider University gets split off in the worst end of it by a big Mei wall coming through. Tennessee just has the number of Rider's team right now, and they're not letting up. They keep punishing these tanks, and now it's just the Baptiste and the McCree both trying to get away, but might get staggered.
It's not going to be looking well regardless. They're at 90%, and, well, they're struggling. They're going on compositions and heroes that are looking to just try to touch. However, Tennessee are becoming very eager to stall them out. And it works, I guess.
Tennessee going to be playing hard here and holding well up against Rider. Rider touched point, I believe, maybe twice, but I think really only once. I don't know if they actually touched that first fight. Either way, strong performance coming through from Tennessee as we go here into the play of the game. You're going in with that Coalescence. I believe this was into the Reaper push that saw the full team wipe. Yeah, that's looking like in big value there for those for just that one ultimate.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of the difference between Rider and University that are at least going into these fights is the form of engagement. They're both really wanting to play aggressive and kind of work kind of as a synergy to beat the other team. However, Tennessee are having better engagements. They're using ultimates very early to be able to push through, or small abilities such as sim turrets to kind of focus your attention. That Reinhardt's going to be pushing in, and you're yelling at somebody, hey, please shoot the turret. Please, I just want to push in. My shield's breaking down. Symmetra's reloading because of it. So they're basically infinite. And it becomes a very frustrating struggle. And I think that's why Lijiang Tower is one of those more popular maps for teams that are really good at either being really annoying or really synergized.
And you have a great point, user, but there's also the flip side of that. Let's say Tennessee isn't able to take that first point. They have to switch off of Sim because, pushing in with Sim probably not as beneficial as, holding a point with Sim. You have those turrets. You don't have to actually keep active with them. And you have to get a little bit more aggressive, which, yeah, the teleporter can kind of do, but not as good as you'd like it to. Either way, you have to switch. You're giving up a little bit of ult economy, and then maybe Rider starts to see some of that momentum going in their way, and so all of a sudden, Tennessee's not able to get out of spawn. So again, a very risky, potentially risky play coming through. One that eventually pays off for them. Usually, a lot of times we see the sim go, head to head with another sim, but this time it didn't really look too contested for Tennessee.
Yeah, it was a bit more confusing too, because the reason why you play that sim versus sim is solely to teleport on top of the high ground and you take that early fight, which is sometimes where you see a Mei, Doomfist, Cassidy. That's what they're relying on. That's what they're trying to do to be able to win these fights. And if you're not going to kind of mirror that on first fight and you're continuing to try to fight that out, well, you're basically punching a brick wall. You're going to be bleeding out and struggling to push forward. That's why a lot of teams, after that first fight, if they struggle, or immediately they go over to a dive, a wrecking ball competition, something that's agile, something that's fast, something that doesn't kind of enable the brawl to be able to focus down your entire team by walking into you.
And I'm gonna put a little bit of pressure on you here, in user intel. I'm gonna check your chops here for a second. Do you think that Rider needs to enable a little bit more aggression, or do you think they need to find a composition that works with the reservation they're playing with right now?
100%, I think it becomes more of the reservations. You can play as aggressive as you want, but University of Tennessee have the ability to kind of match that aggression, and well, they had the heroes to be able to kind of back it up, and that became the further issue. You could get a 6k, but they're just gonna come back and have a stronger composition for that map. Like just like right now, as we go into Kings Row, Rider University are running a very, I guess you can kind of debate, an unconventional composition, as that Roadhog is being picked. Same with the Torbjorn and the Junkrat. While I do agree with the Torbjorn and Junkrat, I think they're viable picks on this map. The Roadhog can have mixed feelings and mixed receptions. Tennessee is kind of more running something that is a little weird, but it's still possible to run, especially with that Zarya enabling that aggression combined with the antis.
We'll see if, in fact, since Vince can get this huge value on Hog, look for it to be a little bit more difficult with those Zarya projected barriers up. And as I say that, Lucky Dog immediately going to be taking Ranger down, meaning since Vince is now going to have to be the face of this team, taking all that damage up front. Healer gonna, the healing, the take a breather, going to have to be coming online for them. Eventually does. And just like this, we can already see Ryder having to play it's less advantageous cover than they'd perhaps like, all because Ranger's not there, and nobody can get Ranger to point faster, since Vince immediately having to dive on to point, but Basher just getting in, closing the distance between them and themselves and the supports. Now immediately trying to swing heavy is the main tank Ranger from Ryder, but everybody else is already so low. They have to back off, try to go for a regroup so they can hold on this archway.
Yeah, Roadhog is really good when it comes to splitting attention, getting those quick one-shot kills. I don't think Roadhog really works in the main tank category. Often it's really just a Zarya or someone that helps it out, but as they're moving forward, it's really going to become a hindrance.
Certainly will. As we see Tennessee here almost ready with that full war chest going in. Basher, I believe, got the nano, but ended up just getting deleted there early on. Ryder looking to put their feet in the ground and hold here while they can.
And there was a bit of miscommunication. They really wanted to use that Nano Blade, but they seemed to kind of be uncomfortable when they wanted to use it. And then Lucky Dog using the Graviton was kind of that insignia of like, hey, pop out, we just get a quick 6k, we take this fight. Unfortunately, they just got pushed on, and that's what's good about University's comp. It's just going to be a bigger issue against the sound barrier.
Oh, but a nice shield block coming in. Doge Fighter not able to get too much for it. Basher, however, able to get one, but stays too long in the hot nacho cheese, rather that Torbjorn Lava not going to be doing too much for that Genji's health. As we see here, a nice anti-nade coming through from Tennessee, but they can't quite follow up on it. Most everybody's already dead, and Tennessee used a lot of ultimates in that.
It's anything that I love about Rider University's own composition is the fact that it has so much control. Molten Core is by far one of the best abilities when it comes to isolating these fights off, and they still have the Riptide to be able to just immediately poke someone. With Basher gone, it's only going to be an upward spiral.
Absolutely, another nade onto Ranger, meaning they have to play a little bit more reservedly, and nope, too late. They're going to be taken down. Since taking a nap, meaning that they're going to get taken down as well. No tank reservation now for Ryder. Keys gets their tire taken out. Looks like Tennessee have the opportunity to absolutely run this field. That's what they're going to do. Ryder trying to step back for a moment, but Noodles on that speed boost can absolutely just keep pressing that advantage if they want.
I definitely agree. They are continuing to move forward. We see Ryder want to try to take some form of an early fight, even if they're not fully 6, they're just waiting. But that's really what they have to do, especially with the Molten Core, Whole Hog, and Shatter.
Doge Fighter going to be leaning in, having the Shatter online, might be going for it. Does indeed, gets 2 off the back end. Both of the Junker boys going down. Since Keys both getting sent back to spawn, and that's a nice second cap for Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that was just kind of the idea of the ultimate versus. We saw they used the Nano, which Nano is by far one of the best abilities for a support player to be able to allow your team to go aggressive. And, well, Doge Fighter proved it to great success. Sure, Ranger can try and pop that Shatter, but unless you're using that Molten Core to try to slow them down from pushing, you gotta make them scared. You're not really gonna shut them down. Now they have a Graviton Surge, and they're already prepared to use it.
Nothing to mitigate that Graviton Surge. Immortality Field, though, to keep them alive, as well as the Molten Core once again to just keep people away from them as far at a distance as they can. Keys coming in with the Junkrat, gonna be landing some mines, landing some pills, able to almost get the kill since Vince hooks into Paravir, but takes a nap right before the pull comes through. Tennessee on the back foot now, or having to step away at least.
Rider University has so much burst damage that the moment that grab came out and the Molten Core kind of spread around, the Junkrat's going to be able to start melting you, and it's going to be harder for them to push through because look at that, so much CC and spam is just hitting them, though Ranger getting hit with that anti is going to help.
It's going to be the high noon off the back end of that sound barrier, but gets 3 off that. It's looking excellent now for Tennessee to just try to push in. Once Ranger goes down, we start to see the flaws in Ryder's composition, nothing to absorb that damage, and just like that, Cart gets delivered the 3rd. Even the Baptiste can't touch, but Tritchy tries.
Yeah, unfortunately, University of Tennessee versus Rider University, those two comps are very good at what they do. But the issue comes is once you lose Rider, you don't have anyone face tanking that damage. Rodog can do as much as they want, but as Doge Fighter is showing you, you cannot block a shatter like that, and it becomes that issue of what do we do? Do we switch up supports? Do we switch things up? I think it's just you run a composition that enables your Reinhardt to be able to play aggressive. That's the entire point of playing a Zarya or a D.Va. You eat up that damage, or you bubble it / deny anti-value, and they can be used to great success, as we saw from University of Tennessee being able to capture with 3 minutes and 29 seconds, and it's only going to work better, especially because they're going to be coming back onto it with some small variations. The Doomfist and Widow are by far very curious picks. I think the Doomfist is very interesting because it's all about breaking your focus, making you kind of panic or anything, and even then, well, it's not that great, so it's understandable that they switch over to the Hanzo, though Rider University, they worry me a little, 'cause Sigma's very easy to walk onto if they choose that character.
Of course, Rider still in the attacker spawn, so has the opportunity to change things up, especially once they get an eye for what Tennessee's composition is going to be like. We're seeing the double snipers, so that's Sigma's ability to just place those shields. I kind of like it. We'll see if it sticks around, as you said, hero user, but the gate's going to be dropping in just a moment. Rider look like they're going to be rolling out with that Sigma. Immediately, Dobbs just landing a massive headshot on the Nifty Bean. Rider's probably going to have to be stalled into that for a second, but now with Tennessee, it doesn't look like they're going to get too aggressive off of it. It looks like Rider know that they can just keep playing at the choke, wait for their support to come back, and when they do, immediately just push ahead like nothing's happened. Doge Fighter continuing to try to swing ahead, not going to be finding too much with that Fire Strike, but right now just trying to burn the resources of Rider University, aside from the fact that they already got a kill. Ranger kidnapping Doge Fighter into the back end. Oh no.
Yeah, it's not turning out them for so well, though Doge Fighter being gone means it's going to be harder for them to kind of recontest onto this fight.
Yeah, Tennessee trying to fight back, trying to get that damage, but they don't have heroes. They don't have DPS, essentially, that are good at fighting in that close range zone. Dahubs and Basher can only do so much, and Soggy's all happy to close the distance, especially on those support players. Paravir taken down. Rider University now has full first point presence and gets the cart unlocked. Doge Fighter has to try to avoid taking too much damage here, otherwise it's a stagger.
Yeah, Sigma works well with the D.Va, but the issue becomes that you don't have much self-preservation. It's all about just enabling and shielding from your team. Though ironic, the Sigma doesn't, like, immediately shield when they see the Widow. I have that panic anxiety. I'm scared every Widow's gonna be able to headshot me, and I think Dahubs truly shows it to a great degree. Though losing your Reinhardt is by far the biggest issue you can. You have to make sure that Doge and Ranger are the ones who are staying in this fight, because they're the ones who are going to keep you up, and it's going to be really hard to kind of hold this, as we already see University of Tennessee moving forward.
No one can hide.
So we see Rider going to keep moving this cart. The Earthshatter goes out. Doge Fighter takes a drop, actually kills one off the back end of that, and just like this, Tennessee able to lean back in. They have those infra sites, able to just know the locations. Not going to matter. The pit actually doesn't connect onto Soggy. Doge might be a little upset about that, but we'll close the kill anyway.
Do you know how hard it is to shatter each other at the same time? You have to be literally frame perfect. You have to hit Q and ping at the same time, and they both did it. The issue is that everybody was low on the side of Rider University, and Tennessee wasn't. So at least they get to back up and then use the grab to bait them in.
Oh no, and the grab not going to be there for the Dragons. Basher not able to get too much with it, but will split the field enough to cause some pain. Ranger taken dangerously low, and Nifty Bean has to be the one to keep them healed. Twitchy no longer in this fight. Rider University going to be taking a step back, and Doge Fighter going for the Heaven Bin, excuse me. And Ranger going to be able to swing back. Cart still making progress off the back end of just this tank and support player, but Twitchy has to be careful. Basher can still land some nasty headshots.
Yeah, it's still much of a fear. They're not sick, so they are definitely not very confident to move forward. They do have the ult economy to kind of speak up, puff out their chest, and say, hey, what you doing? Either way, but this is where the windows and ultimates are going to start kind of mattering.
Tennessee going to be given a lot of space because of that amplification matrix. Ryder either had to move back or move just ahead of it, but they chose to move back, giving up a lot of space, and it gives Tennessee the opportunity to keep pushing, getting aggressive, and getting more kills.
Yep, they're already pushing forward. They're feeling very confident, and that's kind of one of the weak points. They didn't invest much or really anything, and I totally respect that. Maybe that's not a fight that you want to take. However, it was 100% very winnable, and now they have an ult economy to kind of work with it. But the problem becomes is when you have so much to spend, how much are you really going to pay for? How much are you willing to use, especially in this fight where the dragons are splitting you off in finds too?
Dragons not just splitting you off, but getting a couple of kills on the way out as well. Ranger just trying to get away, but ends up feeding over a little bit more ult charge. Basher gonna be recovering those dragons a little bit faster because of it.
Yep. Now, University of Tennessee, I don't feel they're really relying on kind of winning these fights out with these kind of small ults. It's more of just wasting down the time bank. They're going to be able to hold you on third point if they can do it on second. But by using these ultimates, it just means that they're making sure, no matter what, there will be a less of a time bank. Now, with this flank, though, they're preparing to kind of counterplay.
Oh, but the Sigma Gravitic Flux gonna be going in. Doesn't get too much. Ranger, however, able to land the Earth Shatter, taking down Twitchy. That retreat no longer an option for Tennessee, but it doesn't quite matter as the damage still there. That amplification matrix from Paravir just forces Rider University to either die or get away.
Man, if there's anything about playing Junkrat that must be frustrating, it's that immortality, as it kept them alive, denied 2 people from dying. And as a Junkrat player, you have to make sure you're either having your team break that immortality first, or you're finding other targets who are very vulnerable with it. That's the entire point you're playing Junkrat. You're in close quarters. You have to be able to shut them down!
Oh no, but a big Earth Shatter is going to be shutting down everybody from the side of Ryder, most everybody from the side of Ryder, putting them on their backs, sending them back to spawn as well.
It's just nothing better than just a clean shatter to end things off. With a minute and 30 seconds, they're now looking at their economy, and they must be panicking because they're not being able to push in. Their composition doesn't work well with that, and Ranger is just not getting enough room to be able to kind of move in. Though with these double support ults, they'll be able to play it massively aggressive. But again, Tennessee is being able to play first.
And Tennessee makes the first move by using those dragons. It's going to be double-layered support ultimates coming in from Ryder, just trying to keep their team alive through it. Diva Bomb to really try to mix up this composition. Doesn't find too much, but Lucky Dog still enforcing a lot of space and enforcing everybody to go towards the waiting arms of DaHubs. Puts a couple bullets in the opposing team. Ryder University now just trying to play towards the cart, but have already suffered too many member losses.
It just hurts. It's nothing you can do when the Sigma isn't really able to kind of peel in or have the mobility. I'm glad to be seeing Ryder University switch over to that Diva, since Vince is going to have a lot more room to be able to help their team and especially eat these dragons. But you're in borrowed time?
Nobody seems to notice Basher just hanging out in this inn. Sagi's gonna eventually try to go and get these kills, but can only do so much. Trying to get hunted right now, and the 2 DPS take forever to kill Basher, and aside from that, Tennessee still managed to get all the kills. This is a shame for Ryder right now.
Definitely agree. They look like they have a good sense of how they want to be pushing it in, but the issue just comes. Oh, at least they got that kind of 360 shatter out, cancels it.
They did, and Paravir goes down unable to provide support with that immortality field, and just like that, Ryder University might have a huge opportunity. Key's going to be leading in with that tire, just trying to clear space up ahead, able to get the baby Diva, but now has to haul to the cart, because at this point, the objective has to touch second.
This is why you never get that aggressive. They had a good opportunity to kind of hold them, but they got over aggressive. That's not the same University of Tennessee that we saw compared to Lijiang Tower. They just really got eager and wanted to shut it down. Luckily though, Ryder University, they took good advantage of it. They just pushed forward, they got the picks, they touched that point, and then Tennessee could kind of struggled against it. It is going to be, again, hard to kind of push through.
And Sagi having to deflect, just trying to survive, and Ryder University getting chewed up here, but User, there's only a minute left. It doesn't seem likely that Ryder's going to be able to get this outside of overtime.
I definitely agree. Tennessee have been able to win these fights solely dry or investing 1 to 2, while Ryder have been investing a lot of ultimates and not really getting much out of it. The Coalescent is a very powerful ult, but when it comes to kind of solo carrying, there's not much against it.
Diva Bomb going to be going out once again, forcing back and getting kills as well. Tennessee getting the best of both worlds in this situation. Going to be forcing out the Coalescence Nifty Beam, but gets shattered on. And just like that, Ryder now being forced into an uncomfortable position. 30 seconds left, and they're going through hero swaps.
It's not Mystery Heroes, but they're trying to just make anything work. That Shatter absolutely destroyed any hopes that they had to have that potential. And now with these early picks coming out for the Widowmaker, it's only gonna get worse.
It is. You're looking for that Doomfist to get those immediate early level entry kills. Diva Bomb goes in, gets two. Maybe something happens for Ryder. Ranger throws in the Earth Shatter, only finds Noodles off the back end of it, but Noodles so far able to get away. Ryder University able to slug a few ways towards Tennessee, but not able to get the cart delivered just yet. It's going to be making its way around that final corner.
Tennessee have the sound barrier. It's the matter of how you engage it. Do you use it defensively or offensively? That's gonna matter the most, especially combined with this blade against Basher's own Dragons. It seems that no matter what, they need to cap this point.
And Basher's Dragons go out. Since unable to catch, but Twitchy has the back of their team, able to drop that sound barrier, keep everybody alive, as well as the immortality field from Nifty Beam. Right now, Ryder looking like they have the potential to come through, but Saki just not able to land these shurikens, not able to put enough pressure on that Baptiste. Dogefighter has this Earth Shatter, goes for it, able to hit this Baptiste, and just like that, clearing everybody off. It was a close fight on that last one, but Tennessee comes in victorious 3-2 here on Kings Row.
When it comes to Overwatch, and especially competitive esports, 1/3 of the fight, it's all about mentals, and you have maybe 20 seconds of pure adrenaline to make a decision, and unfortunately enough, it just seemed Ryder University, they couldn't pull it out fast enough or really focus. As they split targets in that last fight, they weren't united as we saw before, and eventually that causes them to crumble like a soft cookie out of out of milk, and it's just kind of, it's a little upsetting to see because they definitely had that moment. They had that spark. They used the sound barrier very defensively, so they used that blade aggressively, but the blade doesn't find anyone. That you kind of get lost. I think using blade is one of the most complex abilities because you ever tried getting a 6K combo and you lose who you were hitting? It's absolutely embarrassing, especially to catch on camera, and that becomes the big factor that they didn't have anybody. And while Tennessee, they were just focused on whoever is on cart, because you don't want to see 9 that. So now you're jumping everyone. The moment your Reinhardt does, oh, throw Lucio, throw somebody, and then they're just shattered. They had a Bastion there just shooting down on you. It's a great idea to slow them down, especially in the last fight. But either way, they need to be able to kind of adapt. They need to be able to work faster because that Diva worked very well, but that Diva was very late.
Yeah, you talk about that Bastion. It's always that advantage that you have on defense. The opponents, the attacking team, can't get off the objective. They can't get off the point or the cart, whatever it is. So if you're able to put something that does a lot of damage at a distance, just absolutely huge there. However, we're going to give Ryder an opportunity to get some of their mental back. We're going to be taking it to a quick break here, user. Folks at home, make sure you stick around. We'll be right back. Hello, folks. We are back, and I have a little bit of bad news. If you're a fan of Rider University, they are up against a wall against the University of Tennessee, 0-2. Sir Waltman, user until here once again, ready to cast the perhaps final map of this game. Although I'm certainly hoping not, user. I'm hoping we see this map go all the way.
I can definitely see it being Temple of Anubis is a map that I always defined as a 50-50 split. You can be the best team in the world. You can be, the Shock. You can be Philadelphia Fusion, who I mean aren't, but listen, I'm a Fusion fan. Let me be. Either way, this map very just relies on how much you just feel frustrated, or if you're able to kind of play against it. It's a very much a spam map more than anything. So University of Tennessee, I like the idea that they're going with dive. I'm more scared that Ryder, they're running Brawl on the defense, so they have to walk into Tennessee, but Tennessee have a composition to where it's really hard to walk in. They're supposed to jump on you.
And essentially, most essentially, in my opinion, it seems like they have that Pharah who can just knock Ranger off that high ground and make everything so much more difficult. Just like that, we see Keys getting taken down immediately. Soggy with a quick response, able to take down that Pharah, and now Nifty has to go for a Noodles has to go for a very bold res, is able to get it, and Twitchy now taken out of the fight. Ryder all of a sudden trying to just hold their own ground. The res eventually going to be coming through. Twitchy now going to be being held up here, as now Ryder's still able to buy a lot of time, but they're suffering right now. They are allowing themselves to get pushed in a very brutal way. Losing that Diva mech also going to be very costly, and this is what we were talking about. Plank able to play at a distance. Ryder has to stay on point. They have to keep that, but Tennessee going to be happy to just pick off whoever they see here, user.
I definitely agree, and this is just a slow ending as they just collapse entirely on the side of Ryder, and that was the big point of the composition that kind of pointed out that was their bigger weakness. Sure, they can stall it as much as they can, but Plank has every line of sight to shoot you in the face. And have you ever played comp against a Widowmaker that you know you can shoot in the face? You don't try and enable them. You try to shut them down. You try to do something to make it worse. On this side of 2CP, it works fine. Second point is very good for this composition, but it's only going to get harder if they give Plank room to play.
Absolutely, and Plank so far has had tons of room to play. They're going to be using those infra sites early on, trying to get an idea of positioning coming through, and that's going to be essential for Dogefighter to dive in, gets that nano boost as well. Tennessee already getting a handful of kills. The Diva Bomb goes in just to disrupt as much as possible. Tennessee already killing pretty much everybody. Mercy, the last one to go down, going to be getting that first tick and upwards.
A really good fight, but this is where the stall comes in. This is where 2CP truly matters, except from the fact that Tennessee were, they were looking into the stream, I'm guessing. They could see into the future even with this delay, as not only did they barrage, but they just managed to pick off anyone who was coming in, stopping those respawns, which is absolutely beautiful. You just got a timing of 4 minutes and 55 seconds off of one fight. Those were technically only 2 fights for the entire game. And that's all from the fact that Ryder don't have the kind of heroes or ability to play against it, especially with that really nice Mei wall. It was more of a hindrance as they kind of walled off the monkey and the entire team wasn't able to collapse. It allowed the monkey to be able, Doge Fighter more specifically, to be able to jump back, move wherever they want, especially with that nano with the increased damage, where you'll be able to kind of one clip a Mercy. It becomes that big issue. They made a very big mistake, I think, on point 1 of allowing Tennessee to set up, have time to breathe, and then eventually burst them down. They played so far back that even if they dropped on the point, it would have been an issue. I could see maybe if you're using rotations or kind of the old treehouse strategy of the Symmetra and you're teleporting around, you know, like, ooh, where am I going? Ooh. But it just became more of a problem as it went on. They just did not have the equipment, the necessities, or really anything to kind of stop it. So Tennessee, knowing that they have so much time, they can play as slow as they want. I really love this, what they're running. It's basically kind of bread and butter of a double shield, while Rider University, as much as I can see the Doomfist working, it's gotta get value very quickly or it's going to be shut down by Doge.
We can already see Tennessee running a composition that has a little bit of innate power against Rider University's dive style. That Torbjorn going to be so powerful. Plank as well, able to play at distance, threatening anybody who goes in for the dive. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Rider University can't lock onto one target safely, and just like that, able to get torn apart. But it looks like there may have been a server issue. I think we might have to take a moment to get this figured out, but that was that was looking to be a pretty rough start for Ryder either way on their offense. I mean, again, going into that Torbjorn, going into that Ashe, where the Ashe has the coach gun, the Torbjorn has the overload. There's not a lot of good tools to focus down if you're Ryder.
I definitely gotta say I 100% agree, but I'm feeling more pain at that server reset than
Oh, yeah.
anything. That hurts. But you're 100% right. Torbjorn as a character in that comp is all about breaking shields, breaking poke, finding out those little squishies all around, while the Ashe is playing far back or really close up, using dynamite to kind of mirror them down a tiny bit and just kind of bang bang shoot them in the face. That's really kind of the utensils and abilities that Ashe truly works on, and that's why the double shield is so good, because you're going to be able to deny a lot and you're going to be able to give a lot. It's kind of that middle ground that works to the best of the abilities. As much as I think that dive works well, often it only works because you're able to kind of invest in ultimate, you're able to get something quick, or Tennessee makes a mistake. But we have rarely seen them make a mistake besides from overcommitting that aggression. However, they seem to have fixed that issue when it comes to Temple of Anubis.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes perfect sense here. If you're a Ryder, it's going to really be a struggle. If you're Tennessee, you're feeling confident no matter what you're running. You have a healthy time bank, even if your opponent is able to capture, which, at least in accordance with the last couple of maps we've seen, you're not necessarily having that at the front of your mind. You're just looking to, play a solid game. Perhaps if you're being really forward thinking, you're looking to not give away too many of your primary strategy. But it's all going to be a thought. It's all going to be a thought process coming in from Tennessee as to how they really want to consider things. I am getting word, user, that I think we're going to be restarting the map as well. We're going to be seeing exactly how these teams are going to be working with that.
Gotta rub the lopsided chin hair of mine just to figure out, gotta think. And I wonder how much of a frustration Tennessee is going to take that into their game. At least for me, I'm very much a player, and I know some players are very much the same, where if they get mad, they bring that in. Everything becomes a little bit too personal and prejudiced against everyone. It's like, you're playing Ashe? I hate Ashe players, and that's just how it's going to be. Meaning, Tennessee most likely is going to just kind of feel liberated and be able, especially because they get to meme a little, recapture their time, and then come back in. It's more about how Ryder want to work. They at least saw their composition and how it was reacting. That gives you a moment to say, well, what do we change? What differences do we want to make? How do we want to confuse the opponents? Because they think we're going to go back on the same comp, but no. We're going back on maybe a Hanzo, maybe a Widowmaker, so we can poke them down. Maybe we're trying to be as annoying as possible.
Yeah, it's certainly a consideration. I mean, you run it once. If you know that you might have to re-go again, you either already showed your hand to your opponents, or you change up, do something new that they're not going to be expecting. The real question is, does this count as us technically going to 4 maps? Because we're restarting Anubis, so we're seeing the same map twice.
Necessarily, no. I think it's like the same idea of going to like a map 6, and you have to play the last control point. I don't think, or because at that second, you're not going to be able to go play the last map. This is more of just a quick reset, just making sure everything works fine. And it's a frustrating kind of factor, I definitely have to say. But hey, more Overwatch time. Some players just really like to compete, and I'm guessing this is Jeff Kaplan's old way of encoding inside the game once a team is ready. Though luckily, at least, it seems that Rangers, they're going to be pushing in first. So University of Tennessee, they'll have some confidence at least. They know what they need to do.
We're going to be seeing now Tennessee trying to hold early on. Again, the Zenyatta lobs just trying to go in, get some early damage. Not able to find too much, at least in terms of kills. A little bit of damage, but not too much. And Tennessee already wearing down the resources of Ryder. We can see Rangers' shield taking a wailing, and another server issue. I'm not sure if at this point we're just having some sort of server side issues, what this has got to be, but this is definitely where the teams are going to start to get a little bit heated.
I feel like somebody just sent like word.exe over to the server, and they're just making sure University of Tennessee do not have any chance to try to win the 3rd point. If there's anything about slowing things down, I definitely think it's got to be this opportunity. So we just get a moment where I don't really think we can comment too much on the compositions, as we're not really getting a pure idea of it. We're not really being able to see what they're doing. I think it's more of just kind of hypotheticals and thinking of the possibilities, especially because it seems the server is against both of these teams rather than just one. Maybe Tennessee because they got over 4 minutes, which is really hard to get, I think, on any map, but still, you know.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. And while we have a moment here, user, I don't usually get to talk about this, but we've already kind of analyzed things as we're expecting them to go for this reset. I want to talk about Tennessee's mascot, their logo right now. All right, you can see it below my name here. It's that I don't know what kind of dog it is. I'm really bad with dog breeds, but the dog with a gaming headset. Do you think he's playing with other dogs, or do you think he's just playing with normal people?
Have you ever seen that picture of like dogs playing poker?
Yeah.
I think it's exactly like that. That dog is playing with other dogs, or dogs, as I'd like to say, with like a capital D. They're sitting there playing, I guess, like golf or something, maybe like Mario Golf, because it's technically like fetching. They have that type of game mode. Either way, third time's the charm, as I'd like to say. Hopefully, Rider University, they're going to be able to just push forward, shut them down, and maybe bring this into a good timing. However, University, they've swapped things up a tiny bit, at least running that Junkrat. So, less poke damage overall, but still that spam damage and Riptire is absolutely devastating. If you don't shut it down, they're going to be able to kind of win fights off of that alone, which can be a further issue as these games go on. Even with that Genji, I'm more worried for Soggy than anything. It is just such a weird character to play on this map.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Dahub's on that Junkrat, again, just trying to catch some early damage. And Soggy just getting obliterated. You think that Ryder would perhaps be aware of this strategy that's coming through from Tennessee, seemingly on repeat, but no, Dahub's just going to be allowed to plow as much damage in as possible, and even able to get one on death. That martyrdom, that total mayhem coming through, going to be cleaning up, and now Tennessee going to be feeling a little bit more liberated to get in, push on this, the final few remaining members of the team, but so far holding a solid defense.
If there's anything you cannot do against Double Shield is let them shoot you. That's very self-explanatory more than anything, but it's just a simple fact that they have so much poke and spam and damage that, well, right at University, they have to go back over the dive. They have to start making some type of adaptation and changes, but it's only going to be kind of more of an issue if they're not being able to immediately take these fights and be able to come back with ultimates.
We're already seeing Tennessee start to slow build some of these ultimates. The fights haven't been supremely aggressive, although as I say, this Rider University just going to be going right ahead, but they go into the waiting arms of a Riptire that gets 3. Tennessee not giving them any room to breathe.
Yeah, server crashing not there. That's curious, pretty biased if I say anything. But, Rider University, they need to just take these fights very quickly. As much as they lose them, I think it's better to lose them, build up your ultimates, be able to come back and feel free than anything, than worrying about if Tennessee has another ultimate.
Absolutely tend to agree, and Soggy, we can see, just trying to deflect some damage back, but Tennessee going to be opening things up with the amplification matrix, immediately putting a lot of pressure on those tanks and forcing Rider University to either take all that damage or wait just a few moments until that passes, again, burning down that time clock even more aggressively.
It's only going to be kind of a uphill battle. It seems that they really want to be building up to that nano. They have the coalescence coming up on the Riptire, although Ranger being gone means that they just are going to be losing that time. Soggy is able to kind of take that flank, and I guess that's okay. But Tennessee, I think, have the perfect abilities to just easily counter them, and that just hurts to see, because no matter what way they try to engage, Lucky Dog is going to be able to kill them 10 out of 10 with that Gravitic Flux.
And I mean, right now we're going to see Soggy switch off of the Genji, so looking for the other Shimada brother, that Han, so not going to be able to combo that Nano Blade anymore, but we'll see if perhaps that long range threat comes through a little bit more prevalently for them. And Tennessee, again, such a spam-heavy composition. You have the Sigma Orbs, you have the Zenyatta Destruction, you have that Ash, Dynamite, and the Junkrat grenades as well. Lucky Dog having a lot of pressure put on them. That anti-nade going to be coming in, meaning that they can't get too much healing. He's probably going to be calling out for that Immortality field to get torn down, doesn't. Noodle's able to save a large majority of their team, and Tennessee going to be suffering a loss of manpower, but not crucially, as they're still able to hold that first.
And look at the bright side, you pressured Tennessee to the point where they felt forced to use the last two ultimates that they were more than likely wanting to rely on in this last kind of fight, and that's absolutely beautiful. Now Ryder have so much room to be able to use this Primal Rage, move them around, don't allow them to play as a team. As long as the double shield stays stacked, they are going to thrive.
We'll see how Rider University starts to cope with this. Twitchy taking a lot of damage. That amplification matrix is not going to help. Ranger, however, ends up being the first one to drop. And again, Rider University having to just cut line of sight to make sure they don't take too much damage. Keys decides to just go for it and gets punished immediately for it. 12 seconds, and somebody from Rider absolutely needs to try to touch Cart. It's not going to happen. The Primal Rage comes out, but DeHubs has those concussion mines to knock the Primal Raging Winston away. It's not going to be too many people able to touch point, just going to be the one. Ranger trying their best to play in the back end, using that jetpack, jump pack rather, to come in, try to get as much time on Cart for their reinforcements, but overtime's not going to last that long. Nobody able to touch beyond that, and just like that, Rider University not putting up any sort of an offense.
They'll technically count as a full hold if beforehand they got like 4 minutes. I'm pretty sure that basically means University of Tennessee wins, because no matter what, they've already proved that they can cap all points, and they have. And as you can see down in the score, if I'm able to point at it correctly, because depth perception is not my reality.
Fair enough.
University of Tennessee, they're going to be taking home the victory, and there's nothing worse than kind of losing and then not even being able to kind of defend because the map reset.
Yeah. It was more so just a gentleman's agreement, right? Rider University knew that they had to get 2 points, and then time banks after that, I imagine, would have been close to reset, but Tennessee, either way, not going to be given too much opportunity to go again, as they will just be happy to take the point either way, meaning that University of Tennessee is going to be our victor here between them and Rider. However, folks, we are not quite done. We will be back here in just a moment with an interview, so make sure you stick around. We'll be right back. Hello, folks, and welcome back. We are here, moved from the game screen now to the interview booth. We are here with Basher. Basher, hello, welcome, and most importantly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, one question I always gotta kind of start things off with here. What was your mindset, or either you or your teams, preferably both, going into this game? Was there any kind of special considerations you folks were taking as you were looking towards Ryder?
Maybe not Ryder, but we kind of got whopped last week. We kind of did a little bit of trolling. I think everyone came in tonight really focused. At least I did. I was kind of honed in. We did a little bit of the research, looking at the other team. Kind of typical stuff that we've done in the past.
Perfect.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I definitely think research is very important when it comes to Overwatch. But when you guys were fighting them, were you more relying on using compositions that you normally use, or because you were knowing what they were most likely going to run, were you specifically running counter picks at times?
So the maps that we played today, we kind of were just playing what we have been on the past, like 6-man on Lijiang, typical brawl. Well, we actually didn't really run a brawl on KR this time. We kind of pulled out something really random. I would say all the compositions we picked were pretty standard for the map.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. There's a lot of comfortability with that, but at least kind of moving on into the future, do you guys feel like that you can kind of take things easy a little, maybe rock the boat, or do you feel like that University of Tennessee, if they want to be able to keep up this pressure and kind of continue winning, they've got to take it like 10 billion% serious like you did?
Yeah, I mean, for the rest of this semester, I think obviously we're going to take it really seriously, looking obviously to next semester where we have some really hard teams that we have to play against. So everyone's just, again, taking it pretty seriously for the most part.
I'm very glad to hear, but it's kind of the last thing, unless, sir, do you have anything?
I do have. You mentioned some of those tougher teams for next semester. Are there any ones that you personally are kind of looking forward to sinking your teeth into, or going chop to chop with?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think we play UTA twice. We played them in scrims already, kind of got whopped. So, gotta improve a little bit. Maybe do a little bit of a good showing next semester if we play them twice. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Basher. If you go up against UTA, we'll be totally expecting you to win, and I expect to see you back in this interview booth so we can have a few more words, see your mindset at that point. But before we let you go, do you want to give you the opportunity for any shout-outs? So let us know who you want to give some praise to.
Obviously, the whole UTK team. We got some people right here in the lab. We hitting up the lab right now. You know how it is. So just shout out to the whole team. Everyone's putting in. Obviously, our sub we put in today, Plank. He hasn't been in recently, so big shout out to him, performing pretty well on the Widow. So yeah.
All right. Well, fantastic, Basher. Once again, thank you for coming in here, answering a few of our questions. I expect to see you next time we catch one of the games. So. And in case you haven't heard it enough, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, user, for the time being, that is going to be it for Tennessee versus Ryder, but we have more games coming up, so don't worry, folks at home. We'll be back after a quick break, so make sure you stick around.